Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Well, I'll be darned. My good friend Doug sent me this note, and I think I'm going to forward this to the Democratic Party. And attention, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Quote, common sense is a flower that doesn't grow in everyone's garden. Morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, Patriots. Call in. Good morning. And a good morning to you on this Monday, October 12th. Wow. Zing goes the calendar. Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best in tires and, of course, really nice people serving you. Don't forget to stop in and see them today. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A job well done, my dear friend. Thank you for calling. We appreciate it. And right now we're going to tell everybody about Daryl's Cleaners. You know, you don't want to stand around and look like you just came out of a crumply washing machine or whatever. You want your clothes to look nice. Well, they will, and you will, when you take your clothes into Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, my, the best of dry cleaning. And by the way, if you don't have time to wash your clothes, yup, they'll do it. Wash, dry, fold, just like Mama used to. Stop in. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Look good, feel good. Daryl's Cleaners, helping you. Want to also remind, we got to do the weather forecast. Sean's sitting over there. Well, did we change the format? No. Yours truly just had a brain bubble. Our weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn, and the bubble gets bigger. They're on the Burley-Paul Highway, and don't forget the best of rental for tools and equipment for any project that you need. You be sure and get a hold of Roger and the crew at K&R Rental, 678-3122. Now, here's Gina with the weather.
Definitely feels like fall is in the air. Here's a look at your weather forecast for this Columbus Day. Going to be sunny skies. We are expecting a high of 63. Definitely breezy winds out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. And winds could gust as high as 34 miles an hour. Tonight, pretty much the same with a low of 38. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, high of 71. Still going to be a little bit breezy by Wednesday. Mostly sunny, only looking at a high of 58. Then for Thursday, sunny skies and 56. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. And poor old Sean at the station probably sitting there. I didn't know we changed the format. No, you are right. We didn't change it. I just absolutely overlooked some things. Caller, I'll be right there. I want to remind everybody about Ramsey Heating and Electric. And, of course, they are there at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley at 678-0459. The number to call for all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. And that's Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters, getting close to that, and cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 7:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric. And to show you where my mind is this morning, evidently it's way off in a pasture someplace up in the South Hills. I need to wrap up the weather forecast brought to you by K&R Rental. Roger, I'm sorry. I'll tell you what, they've got all the best of long and short-term rental on all their tools. They are the best at what they do and provide at K&R Rental on the Burley-Paul Highway. Woo! I hope the day goes better. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Well, good morning. Let's see if they can help you out a little bit.
My goodness, you ever have one of those days where your mind is in total, it's disengaged, and no matter what you do, it's not going to come back?
Well, it's like you're absent.
Without leave.
Absent-minded, just plain absent.
I'm absent. What can I do for you, buddy?
Okay, first of all, I want to know how Deanna's doing.
Well, she is doing great. We've got a long way to go to get her back into fighting shape like she used to be, but I'll tell you what, every day's an improvement, and we're blessed, absolutely blessed.
Well, we certainly look forward to seeing her again at lunch.
I do too.
That is.
I do too. As soon as I get the okay, we'll have it. So, anyway, what can I do for you this morning?
Okay, a couple of months ago, my wife got a letter in the mail asking for poll workers, during the election.
Mm-hmm.
And her and I talked about it, and she said, well, she felt like she should do something. I can't help it because I can't read or write. But she applied for it, and no answer. None.
Uh-huh.
Now, this is just not fair to her or to the American people or the other poll workers.
Well,
What if somebody come along and ask her to do something else during that day?
yeah.
Well, she said, well, I've applied for this, and they haven't let me know.
Well, okay, let me just jump in here. And I'm not trying to abbreviate your call at all, Keith, but many times problems that are brought up here on the air have simple answers if the people would just take the initiative to call the county clerk's office and ask. Instead of putting it on the radio and letting everybody wonder about it, I would suggest the first thing that should be done is call the county clerk's office and then go from there.
Well, I think it's getting a little late in the season for it. But
well, you've still got 22 days. You've still got 22 days. And quite frankly, like last week, Keith, a caller called in and said, and there was a blame to the governor that wasn't true. I only deal in facts. And this caller has made the assertion that Governor Little had stopped all the sales of hydroxychloroquine in the state of Idaho. Not true. I checked, and because people were taking and buying it in large amounts, they went to a prescription only so there wouldn't be hoarders. So there's got to be common sense and truth to every story, or I'm not going to touch it.
well, they never get a note on there of who you could contact or anything.
Well, okay, but the common sense... Okay, wait.
Without having to handle a little petty thing.
Yeah, but call the county clerk's office, and in your case, it's Joe Larson's office, and I think in 30 seconds the problem can be taken care of. A lot of times we just need to take the initiative and go on offense instead of defense and just surge ahead and find out for ourselves what's going on. County clerk would be the most obvious place to start, and Joe's very forthright and very upfront with everything. I'm sure you'll get the answer. I do appreciate your calls every morning, old buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you.
But the problem is, I don't have anything to complain about then.
Well, no, that's not my problem either. All right, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Wonderful advice.
All All right, my friend. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Now, here's advice that absolutely I can stand behind anytime, all the time. 611 North Overland in Burley, Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. And whatever the menu choice is, breakfast, lunch, dinner, desserts, all the time, anytime. Oh, delicious food served by really nice, helpful people. What? You can't lose. You can't lose. Go in and check out the great menu items today. And they also have another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls, America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant. You stop in and see those good people today. Absolutely. Today is Columbus Day. I will not call it anything else. I will not be coerced. I will not be berated. I will not be anything. I'm just going to call it Columbus Day because it is Columbus Day, and that's the way it's going to stay. And we're at the end of the program this morning at about 10:46 going to talk about that a little bit. It is Columbus Day, and the idiots, and they are, in Portland, rioted and absolutely destroyed property, knocking down statues, I believe, of Lincoln and also Roosevelt, smashing their faces. Excuse me for the cough. It is allergy season, and absolutely have made fools of themselves up there as they were protesting Columbus Day. That kind of a protest makes me even more, let's say, committed to use the terminology Columbus Day. I don't care what he was as a person. I admire his courage and tenacity to sail the seas and find and explore. It is Columbus Day. Caller, stand by. I'll be right there. I want to remind everybody, too, about Dino's Septic Service. How fitting when you talk about the Portland rioters. And then we go right to Dino's Septic Service. Septic tank pumping, liquid waste removal, and, of course, backhoe services, sewer and sink drain lines clean. All of this and more by the real professionals. Dino's Septic Service with the latest, absolutely greatest of equipment to serve you and your home and business. You get a hold of them today. Call these numbers. In Rupert area, 436-6526. In Burley area, 678-1638. And our friends in Twin, 735-8281. Fast, fair, friendly service? Yep, I know, because they've worked for us. Dino's Septic Service, you call them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Deb. At the Burley Senior Center today, it says chicken gumbo. I think that must be a soup. That's the only way I knew to have chicken gumbo. It's only $5 for any and everybody. Call ahead and they'll have it ready for you.
All right. Joe, chicken gumbo is a great meal at lunchtime. It's a healthy meal. And I'll tell you what, it sounds delicious to me at the Senior Center on Overland. And the world's greatest cheerleader for the Senior Center, Joe Taylor. God bless you, man. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, sir. I think the world of that, man. Thank you very much. It goes without saying that I'm voting for Donald Trump. Yes, I am. I'm voting for Donald Trump. I'm not getting paid to say that. They're not running any ads on my program right now, and because of all the hoops you got to jump through for the political season, it's, oh my goodness sakes. You might as well sit down and write Tolstoy's War and Peace. I'm voting for a stronger economy and a stronger nation. I'm voting for Donald Trump. It's foolish not to vote for him. If you don't like his personality, who cares? Really think about this. I don't like Donald Trump, so I'm not going to vote for him. Is the economy been better? Yes. Did he create COVID-19? No. China did. And everything that has fallen before his feet, he has overcome. And I'll stand toe-to-toe against anybody that argues that. I'm voting for what gets done for America. Well, I don't like him because he thinks he's so good. I don't like him because he's so arrogant. I don't like him. Oh, you bunch of crybabies. Look at what he's done for the country, not his personality. He's not going to win a Miss Congeniality contest or a Mr. Congeniality contest, and I don't care. I want to see the results in the bottom line, and I want to see America come back and flourish. And I don't think you can say you're going to get that with this mess, this potpourri of problems with the Democrats, Biden and Harris. Your thoughts are appreciated, though. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, go vote. We the people. Listen to this. We the people have the civic obligation to choose our leadership. Be sure and vote for the candidate of your choice on November 3rd. This message paid by the Re-elect District 27 Representative Fred Wood Committee, Steve Westfall, Treasurer. Go vote. Couldn't agree more. Right now, let's get some calls coming in here. I'd like to hear what you have to say on this Columbus Day. We talked a little bit about the insanity that's continuing up in Portland. This Wheeler is so absolutely obnoxiously weak-kneed and nothing more than a bowl of soup. And he's letting everything go. And then I understood that there is a challenger for his position. And this woman, last week, I saw this story on the news. She was wearing a dress, a skirt, that had all the names of communist leaders, socialist leaders on the skirt, like Che Guevara and Fidel Castro and all that. Whoa! You think Portland hasn't got some trouble? Oh, my goodness sakes. What a mess. They get rid of Wheeler, and look what's headed down the pike. The Democrats are trying everything they can think of to get rid of Donald Trump with 22 days left. And you probably saw and heard Nancy Pelosi, Botox Nancy, standing there with her mask askew and saying that, well, now we'll maybe employ the 25th Amendment to get rid of the president because he's not capable of performing his duties and tasks. A thought was raised by a commentator and a guest on Fox News Saturday, and it really bears repeating, that maybe, just maybe, the introduction of the 25th Amendment might not be for Trump at all. But if, God help us all, the Democrats win with Biden, maybe they're thinking of the introduction of that 25th Amendment to get rid of Biden and slide Kamala Harris, oh boy, into the Oval Office. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again. Maybe we can agree on this. Nancy Pelosi is holding this whole thing up because she doesn't want anything in this bill that would help with small businesses. Now, that is the worst thing I've ever heard of, but I guess that is true.
All I'm going to say is that when it comes to what's happened with COVID-19, the Chinese virus in our nation and around the world, absolutely there has to be some help provided. There has to be some common sense that is going to prevail itself with both parties, Republican and Democrat. But Nancy and Chuck Schumer, and you know as well as I do, Keith, that as long as this president is in office, they are going to do everything they can to thwart any attempt that might make him look good.
That's absolutely true. You know, there's so many people that are against him that don't even know the facts.
Oh, I agree with that.
I made the mistake of tuning into KMVT this morning because I wanted the weather, and I just forgot what channel I was on, and I hear this Senator Leahy, bashing this candidate for the
Supreme Court.
For the, whatever.
The Supreme Court nominee.
Yes, the nominee for the court. But, I thought, what has Fox done? Have they went nuts? And then I realized that I was watching CBS.
Yeah, you're watching CBS, or whether it's ABC, or whether it's NBC, or MSNBC, or CNN. They're all kind of in lockjaw of being animus against the Republican Party or conservatism. Keith, I appreciate your call again. God bless you. This time we do agree. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And good morning.
Top of the morning, laddie.
Hey, sunshine and blue skies to you, my friend.
Yeah, how do you like that common sense flower? I love that one.
Well, I used that as the opening remark, and it was absolutely fitting. Let me ask you something. I was listening to Grassley of Iowa about 5:15 this morning, and he said that he expects the hearing of Amy Coney Barrett to get very dirty and very obnoxious. And it's already proving to be so. But, I was reading a story about the American Bar Association, and that's the nation's largest organization of lawyers, and they came out and stated that Amy Coney Barrett is well qualified to sit on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and most of them in there is left.
Yeah.
So, she is highly qualified. And I don't know what you could say against her.
Oh, Contreras, they'll come up with something. They'll come up with, she tipped an ice cream dish over on one of her fellow students at a 4-H gathering in 1987, and she did it on purpose.
Yeah, in the second grade picnic or something like that.
Yeah.
But they better watch out, because they are going to push a lot more people away from the Democrat Party if they do anything like they did to Kavanaugh.
Let me ask you this, Doug, and you're always very perceptive of the news. The idiocy, and that's what it is, underline the word idiocy because I want to highlight that against the Democrats and what they tell the American public. They say that Trump is trying to pack the court by ramming through Amy Coney Barrett. No, he's not. I'm right up front. He's not doing that at all. He is filling a vacancy.
Exactly. One thing you can learn from politicians, and especially the left, is when they say something like, well, just take, for instance, the Affordable Care Act. You better watch out, because nobody can afford it.
Yeah. Yeah, how true.
They use a name that makes it sound good, but when you dig deep, it's not. And Joe Biden tipped their hand, what was it, Saturday?
No, last Friday.
In Nevada?
Yep.
When the young man asked him, do you think the American people have a right to know? And his words was no.
The American public does not deserve to know, he said. And when he said something like that, all ears should have been perked up, and everybody should have said, wait a minute. The Constitution's first 3 words say, we the people, not we the Democrats. Everybody should pick up on that. It is our right to know what they're going to vote for. It is our right to know where they stand. It is our right to know their platform. And with Biden and Harris, it's the most secretive and under-the-table move I've ever seen.
Exactly. That's exactly true. And they forget, the politicians in Washington, D.C., they think they're smarter than the American people, but we pay their wages. We send them back there to represent us, not to do what the heck they want to do.
When he said that, you got to question whether his handlers just gulped and their eyes rolled back in their head and they started to break out in a cold sweat. But the other night in the debate, the same thing was true with Kamala Harris. She wouldn't answer the question. Mike Pence was absolutely right when he said she didn't answer the question. Would you please, as he asked the moderator, he said, would you please make her answer that question? Nope. She skinnied around that thing like she was on an ice skating rink.
Yeah, she done the political two-step.
Yes, absolutely.
You remember that movie that had that old boy in there and he was doing the political two-step?
Yes.
That was, but that's what they do. And if a candidate cannot be honest and give you a straight answer, then they do not need to represent us in Washington.
Well, okay, now wait a minute. When Trump had a list of Supreme Court nominees, did not the names come out in front of the public well in advance? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And at the same time, Trump, asked Biden, what are your names that you would consider for the Supreme Court? Did Biden come up with a list? Please tell me.
Nope.
Okay.
We don't need to know.
Uh-huh.
We don't deserve to know.
I see.
That's his attitude. We do not deserve to know what direction he wants to take this country. And that should scare every American that has the freedom of a job, to own property, to own a gun, to go to church. That should scare every one of them.
What are you hearing, if anything, around the country, Doug? Please, because I've been calling around to various regions of the country, back east, and I've called down south a little bit to some of the people I know, etc., on this absolute idiocy of early voting and mail-in balloting. What are you hearing about what the numbers are or what the persuasions are? Are they headed for Biden or are they headed for Trump?
I haven't heard. And they're not supposed to count those ballots until Election Day.
But you will agree that a lot of people that have voted, they like to shoot their mouths off and brag about what they've done, and you can't stifle the American voice, nor should we. But I just was wondering if you heard anybody say, well, we proudly went and voted for so-and-so.
No, I haven't. Nobody's said anything to me. I did talk to a gentleman yesterday, him and his wife, and he was saying they went up to Sun Valley. He does construction work, and he went up there for a few days doing a job, and he said there was about a dozen Trump signs and Trump banners in some yards around Bellevue and Sun Valley.
Yeah. I got to tell you this, and you maybe have heard me say this the other day, but on a street going into Kimberly, there's one that there's a house that is so run down. The yard is a frightful mess, hasn't been taken care of, and they've got all the Biden and Harris signs and Black Lives Matter signs and the gay pride flags and everything, and it just absolutely is the most run-down place you ever saw in your life. And right next door is a very neat, nice-looking property with the lawn well kempt and everything with Trump and Pence signs. So you be the decider right there.
Well, I don't mean to judge people on how they take care of their property, but that says a lot about their ambition.
You've got it.
And their pride in where they live.
I got to give away some cookies. I'm 4 minutes late already, Doug. Got to run.
I know you are. Hey, everybody, let's do what we can for our senior centers. I know I sound like a broken record. Donate, volunteer, go help them, and also go eat there so you can leave with a full tummy and a full heart.
There you go. Thank you very much, Doug. Appreciate it. Holy moly, I got to give away some cookies to Sophie's Chatterbox. I'm running late, so come up with your thinking caps right away. Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert, right on the square, with the best of bakery and the best of a restaurant. Oh, good eating. I know we just had a peach pie from there last week. Oh, delicious. You're going to love it. And if you win, be sure and call them and let them know when you're coming in for the cookies. Here's the question for today. And I want you to think a little bit about this. I'm going to give you some leeway. Name at least 2 professional singers that tried acting in John Wayne movies. Name at least 2 professional singers that had parts in John Wayne Western movies. Now, I will give you a little clue. There's more than just a couple. So I'll be lenient on the answers. Name at least 2 professional singers that tried acting in John Wayne movies. Quickly, give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587, and, excuse me, give us the answer. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Zeb. This is Jack Alexander. I think Dean Martin was one and Rick Nelson was one.
You know, you don't have to give me the name of the movie, but do you remember the movie?
I want to say Rio Bravo.
Okay, well, you're right on Dean Martin. What about Ricky Nelson? It was Rio Bravo. I'm just leading you down the path. You're right. And who's calling?
Jack Alexander.
Jack, doggone it, if you love cookies, you just want a dozen of them, and all you got to do is call over there to Sophie's Chatterbox, and they'll have your cookies all ready for you, okay?
Thanks a lot, Zeb.
You betcha, my friend. Thank you for calling. By the way, I found this kind of interesting. I did not know that Roy Rogers had sung and acted in one of the first John Wayne movies called Dark Command. And then, of course, Dean Martin and Ricky Nelson. Frankie Avalon. Remember him, the old teen singer? He was in The Alamo, and Dean Martin also was in The Sons of Katie Elder as one of the brothers. And another one that I wasn't sure of and found out was Cast a Giant Shadow. The movie was with John Wayne and Frank Sinatra. And then remember Glenn Campbell played that Texas Ranger on the movie True Grit. And last but not least in the movie Big Jake, Bobby Vinton. Those were the singers, professionally, that also were actors in John Wayne movies. Holy moly, thank you to Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert, right on the square. Want to also mention calls are welcome. Oh, come on, give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Barry Equipment and Rental, Sales, Service, and Parts. Oh, these people are really good at serving you with the equipment you need for the lifting, the digging, the pushing, the carrying, the loading, and the leveling, and the grading. Oh, my, yeah, you better get in there today. And if you're not sure how to run the equipment, they can help. Call her, I'll be right there. They'll teach you. They got a big sandbox right out behind the office. Barry Equipment and Rental. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Napa location, Barry Equipment and Rental. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning again. You and Doug had brought up that situation in Nevada with Joe Biden when somebody asked him a direct question. And I'll tell you what, that crowd was controlled. Only certain people were allowed to be there. Now, if you put him in a crowd, oh my gosh, he would come unspun. You know, there are just so many things that you can ask him, and he's going to back himself into a corner, and then he's going to start swearing and calling names and everything like that. He'll just literally explode.
Well, let me ask you this, Keith. Give me a short answer on this. Every time President Trump is leaving the White House to go either on the helicopter, Air Force One, or the big jet, and the press is outside and they ask him all kinds of questions, he stands there and he answers all the questions. He's not picking and choosing. They're raising their hand and he's taking any and all questions. And he's done this as kind of an open forum through all of his presidency. How many open forums with common people and reporters have you heard with Joe Biden?
No, he is well guarded, and I can imagine the scolding he got for that Nevada incident, because they just said, you just got to keep your mouth shut. Just say, oh, well, that'll be determined after I'm elected. You know, that's not the answer.
No, I had no respect for Biden and Harris before, and now I have so much less. I absolutely don't trust them. The other night, in that debate with Michael Pence and Kamala Harris, the smirking and the smugness and the absolute arrogance of Kamala Harris. I'm speaking. I got so sick of that, I almost put a Tony Lama boot through the TV screen.
Well, Kamala Harris has become a master of disguise. I mean, she can act really nicey, or she can stab you in the back.
Yeah, well,
you don't know what you're going to get.
Consider all the knife wounds, because she's going to get almost everybody. Her only thing that she wants, underline only thing, is to sit in the leather chair as president and commander-in-chief in the Oval Office. She is a power-hungry woman. Underline those words, and I don't trust her at all.
Well, mark my word, if Joe Biden is elected, she will be president within a year.
I find no reason to go against you on your thought. I can't argue that. Keith, God bless. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. I was really upset yesterday. I was spanning the dial, watching yesterday afternoon. Deanna and I had lunch, and then we were sitting there for a little bit, and we were going from some old Western movies into a couple of other things on TV, and I went across, I told you, I'm not watching in their entirety the NFL games. I have no respect for the NFL, NBA, or I'm not even going to talk about the NBA Finals last night. I wouldn't give LeBron James any credence whatsoever. Major League Baseball, none of them. But I noticed during a commercial break yesterday on the NFL game that I was scanning through, they had an advertisement that was from Black Lives Matter. And they were asking and soliciting membership to Black Lives Matter on the NFL game. Now, folks, how many of you really know and understand what Black Lives Matter is and what it represents? About its founders, about the people that are promoting it, what their main objective is, what their net result wants to be. All of this with a Marxist socialism bent that is against our Constitution and against our family situation and values in this country, and now they're running ads to solicit and obtain new memberships during an NFL game? Sick. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
It's me again, Margaret. They also have formed a lobbyist group for BLM.
Yeah, a PAC group, Political Action Committee.
Yep. Exactly.
Here's the thing, and Sean, all of a sudden we got a lot of feedback here, if you could, please. Here's the thing, Doug. They are getting a reward for being obnoxiously anti-American, and that is pathetic.
It's scary. It is very scary that the American people and the youth and the people that are donating to it, the athletes who think that is the way to go, they need to go to a communist country and survive them. See if they can survive like they want to survive.
When you get to be a political action committee and the funding and everything else under the auspices and headline of Black Lives Matter, terrorist organization, and absolutely Marxist and socialist, doesn't that make you get a little sweaty?
It makes me angry. Now they're going to have tax deductions and they're going to have tax-free stuff and all this good, yes, I'm for everybody's to think what they want to think. But But when they're thinking, they tried to cram it down my throat to think that way. That's when I put my foot down.
I would love the return of athletes putting on a uniform, going out onto the football field, the baseball field, or the basketball court, playing the doggone game and keeping their mouth shut about politics or wearing some kind of a logo that absolutely offends me, like Black Lives Matter.
Exactly. And that commissioner, what a wuss. That man has the backbone of a snail.
Are you talking about Goodell, or are you talking about Silver with the NBA?
Both of them.
Yes.
But Goodell's terrible. When he threatened to fine NFL players in Houston that wanted to put the names of the officers that were shot and killed in that ambush.
Yes.
And he threatened to fine them if they did it. He threatened to fine them if they wanted to put remember 911 on their cleats.
Yep.
They threatened to fine them. They run Tim Tebow out of the game because he would kneel and thank the Lord above for his blessings. But yet they saying it's free speech for these people to put these terrorists and these rapists and these murderers' names on back of their jerseys.
Well, I used the analogy last week, and I think it's very appropriate to mention it again. The Black Lives Matter has taken over the NBA, and the sick, pathetic mind, if there is one, in this man's skull, LeBron James, has been one of the perpetrators of it's all got to be Black Lives Matter, and they wear warm-up jerseys, and they've got to have the logos on the basketball court, etc. It's all their way of saying that they support a socialist Marxist organization. Okay, think back about 20 years. And remember Jim McMahon, the quarterback for the Chicago Bears? And remember the fine and the hefty fine that he had to pay to the NFL because he had a sweatband on his head that said Nike, and it wasn't one of the approved sponsors of the NFL.
Yes, I remember. That's what I'm getting at. Their free speech. It's a limited free speech to what they think matter.
Yep.
And I mean, when you have free speech, but you can only say what other people say you can say, it's not free speech.
Well, we're seeing a leftist promotion and movement in this country, the likes of which I've never seen before. And if anybody disagrees and says, oh, come on, then you better get your head out of your sandbox, and you better really start realizing what's going on.
Yes, and what I'd like to see is a debate between Herschel Walker and that guy that you don't want to give credit to, what's his name, LeBron James.
Oh, my goodness.
I'd like to see a debate against those two on what Black Lives Matter stand for.
Herschel Walker is one of the most articulate former athletes that knows what's going on and has pride in this great United States of America. And if he was in a debate with LeBron James that has the combined IQ of a bicycle spoke, it would be no contest.
It would be no contest. And I mean, that man, when I hear him speak and what he says, he speaks the truth, and it's from his heart, and it's what he believes.
Absolutely. I got to run. I got to get the weather on. I'm already 5 minutes late on that. I'm really doing a bad job this morning.
Sorry, I keep making you run late.
Thanks, Doug. Let's go to the weather forecast and Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And believe me, hearing affects every single aspect of our life. Oh, boy, if you've noticed a diminishment in your hearing.
Definitely feels like fall is in the
Whoa! We'll take all that in just a minute, but let me finish my lead-in. Don't forget, our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology, all you have to do is make an appointment for a hearing screening, and they can and they will help you. Please call 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957, and schedule your hearing screening today at the best. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And now, here's Gina with the weather.
Definitely feels like fall is in the air. Here's a look at the weather forecast for this Columbus Day. It's going to be sunny skies. We are expecting a high of 63. Definitely breezy winds out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. And winds could gust as high as 34 miles an hour tonight. Pretty much the same with a low of 38 tomorrow. Mostly sunny skies. High of 71. Still going to be a little bit breezy by Wednesday. Mostly sunny. Only looking at a high of 58. Then for Thursday, sunny skies and 56. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Range.
Thank you, Gina. And the weather, of course, brought to you again by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Oh, they've got a bigger, better place to serve you. Absolutely, right there at the Minidoka Hospital Complex. They're waiting to serve you. Call. Make an appointment at 312-0957. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Earl.
Yes, sir.
Try to keep this as short as possible and in my best words. I'd like to put a thanks out to the firemen and women that helped on this South Cottrell southeast area of Albion in a fire we had there Saturday. And that thanks goes out to the boys and girls from Elba, Almo, Malta, Declo. Minidoka came in and helped. Burley came in and helped. And the other parts of Cassia County came in and give us a hand. And then all those from Albion, along with the 911 dispatch people, and then also the boys from BLM and others.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think what you just said should be reiterated and said many, many times over and over as to how much these people put not only their lives on the line, but they put forth an effort to where many of them hardly got any rest. They were there, they were working, they were fighting this fire, and all fires. I absolutely agree with you. A big salute to all the people on the various fire crews for the outstanding job that they have done.
Anyway, I just feel greatly that this needed to be brought up, Zeb.
Absolutely. I'm in your corner, old buddy. I appreciate it. And you're the man on the mountain. You have yourself a good day. I appreciate it, Earl. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Zeb.
All right, buddy. Thanks. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Did you hear? And if you didn't hear, you should be aware that Joe Biden is, and this just came in earlier this morning, Joe Biden is reportedly, oh yeah, underline that word, reportedly considering, if he's elected as president of the United States, please no, he's considering making Democratic New York Governor Andrew Cuomo his attorney general. That ought to really give you shivers. That ought to really wake you up and be wide-eyed. Andrew Cuomo is absolutely not a man to respect after his complete mishandling of the Chinese virus in his state of New York. And the moving of elderly into other elderly nursing homes and the devastation and the death. This man, I think you could easily say Cuomo is not running on all cylinders. He's not a very smart man. But that's fitting for a Biden campaign reportedly considering making New York Governor Andrew Cuomo his attorney general. My grandma, back in Wisconsin, my German grandma used to say, "Hi-yi-yi-yi-yi." Yeah, I agree. Right now, let's not forget about our great big sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, do they do a great job for you. Now, this is the season This is the season to think about changing those tires, because I know you're going to cuss me and throw rocks at me and everything. It's time to think about maybe the weather changing and there's going to be stuff on the ground that's going to cause you to slide and skid and everything. Well, make sure you've got the best of tires. It is tire changing season at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And another thing, make sure you get your current battery tested, and if it's not going to do the job, and you're going to go out some cold morning in the dark, and you're going to turn the key and it goes click, 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 you better check on all the batteries they've got at any and all of the 7 locations of your Les Schwab Tire Centers. James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Wow. We're almost out of time for this hour, but I want to remind you we're going to have Rick Manning coming up in a few minutes. Nobody knows more about what's going on politically than Rick Manning. And then at 9:30, my buddy Frosty Woldridge from Colorado. All of this coming up in the next hour. Don't you miss it. Have a great day. I'll be back in about 7 minutes. Away we go, hour number 2 on this Monday, October 12th. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best of tires. Don't forget, too, our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always sure to struggle. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh my, you better call and get on the route service to get rid of your garbage. Wave goodbye once a week. They'll come by and pick it up, and it's gone. It's out of there. Wonderful people, Western Waste Services. The number to call, 734-6969. Always at your disposal, Western Waste Services. Want to also give a great big shout-out this morning to some dear friends of mine that they've been on the program for a long, long time with us, and they're so community-oriented and so helpful during a really great time of need, and that's when there's the passing of a loved one. And I'm talking about Joel Heward, his family, and staff at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Don't forget, they are always there to provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort, and always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. A quick note, too, about some folks that are helping you get back to being you, and that's after an injury or a surgery. And that's, of course, I had to swallow. I got a cough drop. I'm sorry. This old cough of mine from Harvest, it's not going to go away. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh, Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists are outstanding at helping you get back to being you. Call for an appointment today, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, with all the exercises and great people and the hydrotherapy pool, located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, 678-1191. There is a gentleman that's been on this program for quite some time, and every week he proves that he is absolutely a straight shooter and really knows what's going on back in the swamp of Washington. And we're going to talk to him this morning about the opening up of the hearing for Amy Coney Barrett for the Supreme Court. Good morning, President of Americans for Limited Government, Rick Manning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, I got to tell you that over the weekend, the news doesn't go away. And last Friday, Joe Biden was asked by a reporter that's probably, after his question, working at Walmart right now this morning, about packing the Supreme Court. And Joe Biden told me and the rest of America that we don't deserve to know.
Yeah, well, it's maybe one of the first honest things he's actually said. Yeah, that's exactly right. That tells you he does plan on packing the Supreme Court, by the way. And it's and it's not that. People may not understand what that means. So let me just spend 2 seconds to explain that. Currently, there are 9 members of the Supreme Court. That's been the case for about 150, 160 years. The first 80 years of our country, it was actually not all that uncommon for them to change the number of members to suit the political desires of the people who were in charge. About 150 years ago, the decision was made. We went with 9. We stayed with 9. And it was and truthfully, the lower courts then have been dramatically expanded because our governments have dramatically expanded, our population has dramatically expanded, so the lower federal courts have dramatically expanded. The idea behind packing the court is that what you're doing is effectively changing the philosophical makeup of the Supreme Court to meet the desires of the Senate and Congress and the executive branch in a direct way to bring the philosophical views of the court in alignment with the elected branches of government. That has been the irony, of course, is for the first time in 80 years, there's an opportunity for there actually to be a conservative majority on the Supreme Court. And it is and this is when they're talking about packing it, because the left is used to having control of the courts, and it is actually so many laws have been made by the courts and not by legislators that it's almost inconceivable to them that to the left that the Supreme Court might not do that. In fact, may undo some of those laws which don't have any legislative grounding or constitutional grounding, and so that's what's at stake. We're watching, and that's why Joe Biden, who opposed it when Reagan was president, supports it today. Won't answer the question because he doesn't want to make a headline, and it goes to show you so that's what packing the court is, and why they're trying to do it. Let's get to the point of Joe Biden. Can you imagine a candidate for president of the United States under any other circumstance who looked reporters in the eye and said, "I'm not going to give you the answer because you might make it a headline"? Mm-hmm. Can you imagine that? It's inconceivable to anybody who deals in politics that somebody could say this, and yet those are the words that he came out of his mouth, followed by the American public doesn't deserve to know. Doesn't deserve to know. Talk about the ultimate DC swamp creature who doesn't think the American public deserves to know his stance on an issue that affects public policy in America for the next 100 years. It's almost inconceivable. I'm just really stunned that he would be that honest.
Let me ask you this, Rick. You've been around politics all your adult life and know far more about what's going on in the swamp, if you will, than I do, even though I try to study it hard every day. But in this election and leading up to the election, Donald Trump has always, whether it's a quick, hurried news conference outside of the White House as he's getting ready to go to Air Force One, he's always answered all the questions and taken all the reporters' questions before he left the area. He's had many, many opportunities for the press to ask him questions. Joe Biden has absolutely entered this contest as the Democratic nominee, and he hasn't answered any of my questions or yours or anybody else's. We don't know know where he stands, and they have protected him, and supposedly he's still ahead in the polls. This is lunacy.
Well, the Democrats' strategy is the less you know about Joe Biden, the better off Joe Biden is. And you saw an example, the example you brought up. Joe Biden gets asked a question, they have absolutely no idea what he's going to say. And he could go off and start talking about, all sorts of weird stuff. So they really have done a masterful job of hiding him. And the only reason they can hide him is because 95% of the press corps are pro-Joe Biden and anti-Trump. This is an example of where we don't really have a free press. What we have are essentially note takers and scribes for the Democratic Party. And because we don't have a free press, and because most people get their news through that vehicle, it is they are manipulated, and there's no other way to say it. Now, the other part of that equation is the reason why people may not like Donald Trump is because of the things that they end up learning about Donald Trump through that same press are almost always negative. So when you get 93% negative coverage, no matter what you do, what are you gonna do? The most astonishing part of all this is the President of the United States, and this is just an issue. It just bothers me. The President of the United States has done more to bring peace to the world than anyone in the last 40 or 50 years. And yet, there's absolutely, if you ask the average person on the street, has the president done anything in the Middle East? The answer would be no, or I don't know, because you don't get told about the peace treaties that are happening in the Middle East. You don't get told about the peace treaty between Kosovo and Serbia. You don't get told about how we're the first time in about 6 presidents we haven't started a new war during this president. In fact, we've lowered the temperature around the world. You don't hear about that. You hear about European leaders being mad, and they're mad because America's is standing up for America as opposed to doing what they want. But you get right down to it, the average person doesn't actually know what's going on, and because they're not being told. And the average person just wants to live their life. They don't want to be, they don't want to spend all their time doing what you and I do, which is, scouring the internet for what's going on. They want to just go to work, go to church, mind their business, and government. They worry about government when government does something stupid and bugs them. And as long as the government isn't doing something stupid and bugging them, they don't care about it. And that's kind of the idea behind the government, where the people are in charge as opposed to the government in charge of the people, is that individuals don't have to spend all the time worrying about avaricious government because they've got rights guaranteed by God.
Absolutely.
So the avaricious government is secondary in their life to exercising those rights. And until the government starts attacking those rights and trying to take those rights away, people are, pretty much sanguine about paying attention to the things that matter in their life, like raising their kids. So that's the challenge. And truthfully, it's going to be, should Donald Trump win, and I still believe he will, should Donald Trump win, I think one of the first things that has to be done is we have to figure out how to get an honest media back in this country. And there will be a discussion about, that's an attack on the First Amendment. And the answer is no. It would be an attack on the 6 people who own the media in this country. And, how their right to free expression should not supersede the other 330 million people in this country. So it's a little frustrating at times. But
absolutely.
It's what it is.
Absolutely. Rick, I want to go to a report that I heard on Sunday morning yesterday And it was from Maria Bartiromo on Fox News. Pardon me. She has always been, I think, a fair and very substantive news reporter that has gone for the facts. And she made and alluded to the fact that little is known about 2 brain aneurysm attacks to Joe Biden. And she says that she has sources in the medical world that absolutely have confirmed this. If this is true, we are not being told the honest truth about his health. Everybody has been after Donald Trump, but let's talk a little bit about Biden. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, if Joe Biden was not running for president, I would say, you know, this is really sad that he's struggling and having real problems, and pray for him not to have a stroke. Now, I still will pray for him not to have a stroke because he is running for president. That would be disastrous. But once again, any other person, a report that he's had 2 brain aneurysms would be leading the news today, tomorrow, or the next day. And, you know, apart from, you know, hearing Maria Bartiromo say it, I haven't heard anybody talking about it. And it's an indictment. It's an indictment on the professional chattering class. It's an indictment on the media. But the God's honest truth is, once again, no one should be surprised that someone who's 78 years old is having health problems. That's not exactly a newsflash. The challenge is, and this is the real question, is can that person do the job as President of the United States? And I don't think that Joe Biden, with his part-time campaign, has made the case, even if you love Joe Biden, he's made the case that he can be President of the United States, at which point you have to look very hard at Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris has said that she wants that California's a great model for the rest of the United States. Well, she's pretty clear. Do you want the United States to become California and New York, or do you want, or not? Because that's the Kamala Harris being in charge, with a Nancy Pelosi as Speaker and a Chuck Schumer as Majority Leader, which would be the case. You effectively have California and New York controlling policy in this country, and everybody in between gets shut out.
Let me ask you this, and I don't want to seem like a far-right, off-the-diving-board wacko, but I heard this over the weekend, I've studied it, and I thought about it, and it could come true. The introduction by Pelosi and others to say, well, we're maybe considering the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump might not be so much for President Trump. If the Democrats win the election, it might be that the 25th Amendment could be used very handily to exit Joe Biden and intro Kamala Harris, correct?
Well, I think the fact they're setting up a commission to deal with that, at this point of the game, it clearly is geared towards whoever is in the White House in 2021. And that, you know, the excuse they're using is COVID, but that's just silly. The reality is they're using Donald Trump as a cover, and they're setting up a mechanism where the House can recommend to the cabinet that the executive is no longer incapacitated and needs to be removed. It provides the imprimatur of Congress on essentially an internal coup to remove him from office. Listen, they've done so many wacky things related to Donald Trump and spending 3.5 years trying to get him out of office that, you know, it may be in the lame duck they're going to try to call him incapacitated and unable to have a second term. I don't know, but it sure feels like this is aimed at Joe Biden and not Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. I want to get your thoughts before we run out of time. The hearing started this morning on Amy Coney Barrett, and I was listening to Chuck Grassley earlier this morning at about our time, 5:15, saying that he's very, very wary and fearful that this could turn into the same kind of filth that happened with Kavanaugh. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think it will. I think they may try to. The left may try to, but I don't think it will. And the reason it won't is because Lindsey Graham has a three-day set of hearings. Hearings will be done on Thursday. Unlike Kavanaugh, but the reason the Kavanaugh hearing got dragged out so long, so they were able to do all the stuff they did pretty late in the game, actually, was because there were tens of thousands of documents that Kavanaugh had as he worked at the White House. Amy Barrett doesn't have any of those. She didn't work in the White House. She didn't work in government. She was a law professor, okay, and then a judge. They confirmed her not 3 years ago. She's heard 91 cases since then, and those 91 cases have all been public for a long time. So since the nomination, the hundreds of lawyers have been looking at her stuff who are on taxpayer payroll, let alone the thousands who are not on taxpayer payroll, have had only 91 cases to look at. And everything else was vetted 3 years ago. So from a standpoint of, it's a different circumstance in Kavanaugh, but that does not necessarily mean that they won't try to get pretty nasty with it. It just means they won't have the ability to extend it out, so it will seem like just like a never-ending nightmare, which is how the Kavanaugh hearing ended up playing out.
One final thought I wanted to ask you about. Yesterday I was going through the television dials, and as I stated, I'm not supporting NFL or NBA or Major League Baseball anymore until they clean up their act. And I noticed that the NFL was running an ad for recruitment of people to belong to and join Black Lives Matter. What are your thoughts on that?
Listen, they're a private entity. They shouldn't have a nonprofit status. They're not a nonprofit entity, but they're a private entity. They can do what they want. If they want to commit suicide to their entity, that's fine. That's what they're doing. And no matter how great a game may be, when the people who are running that game continually tell me that they hate me, I am disinclined to watch, and I haven't. I will admit that I mistakenly, I was clicking through, and the Redskins game was on, and I actually I was picking up lunch. It was on in the bar. I saw it for like 5 minutes while I was picking up my lunch and taking it home. So I did see 5 minutes of it. I was glad to see the Redskins were losing 30-10, but it was just a general principle. But all in all, a private entity has a right to commit suicide. I don't have a responsibility to support that private entity. And I think the viewers are speaking up. I mean, look at the NBA. I mean, one of their games was down 70% from last year, the equivalent game in terms of audience. They had their biggest star on the court. They had a big market team on the court, and nobody cared.
That's right.
That's a league committing suicide.
That's right.
The NFL is facing the same exact thing, and I don't feel sorry for him. They're paying Roger Goodell $40 million. He's apparently doing what they want him to do, and so the owners, if they want to kill their own product, that's their job. That's their problem, but I don't have to watch it.
Absolutely. Rick, I look forward to Monday because you're always such a straight shooter on all these things. I appreciate it and respect it. Even on a holiday, you're right there, Johnny on the spot for us. President of Americans for Limited Government, my friend Rick Manning. The very best to you, my dear friend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.
All right, take care. To the caller that was coming in, I just flat ran out of time. I apologize, and I've got to get some commercial breaks in, so I'm sorry. I really am. Denny's Restaurant. Let's not forget them. Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley. You walk in the door, they take you to a booth or a table, and you sit down. They hand you the menu, and then you don't know what to pick because everything looks so delicious. Whether you're there for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or just dessert, they've got them all, and they're all fantastic. Absolutely. And served by people that are really, really nice and cordial and friendly. They want you to enjoy your experience at America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and you stop in and see these good folks today. Want to remind you to go vote. We, the people, have the civic obligation to choose our leadership. Be sure and vote for the candidate of your choice on November 3rd. This message paid by the re-elect District 27 Representative, Fred Wood Committee, Steve Westfall, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, also, real quick, I want to remind you about some great friends of ours at Let's Ride. Get your motor running. Now, the forecast is cooler, but still, the weather's not bad at all to get up in the hills and enjoy all these beautiful fall colors, the sunshine, the blue sky. My, it's going to be great. Then at Let's Ride, they've got all the side-by-sides, and they've got all the four-wheelers. They're located at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Don't you forget, they're there to serve you Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 2. And along with all the bikes, like the four-wheelers and the side-by-sides, etc., they've got all the accessories and a super service department to keep you running at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. Really good people. Excuse me. Hay fever season and allergies. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. Don't forget to our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and so much more by a staff that's very dedicated and responsive to your needs. Todd and the folks, they really care. Number to call, 436-4424. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Caller, I'll give you exactly 1 minute. I've got a guest that's waiting to come on. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. The propaganda arm of the media knows that if you tell a lie long enough, people begin to believe it. This is what the ratings are all about, getting people to believe that Biden is ahead of Trump. So if they tell the lie long enough, the people are going to believe it.
I have a tendency to absolutely agree with you. And, Tony, I hate to cut you short, but I've got a caller calling in. I appreciate your call always. You and Mary, God bless. Thank you so much.
You,
appreciate it. Right now, let's scoot to the phone line. And my dear friend back in Golden, Colorado, Frosty Woldridge, is on the line. Good morning, Frost. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. And the latest caller that you just talked to, I want to commend him on his observation that the national polls are run by big corporations, and those corporations are highly liberal, if not totally liberal, and that they stand in the corner of anything and everyone except Donald Trump. They've certainly done everything they could to hype the Russian connection hoax. They did everything they could to help Nancy Pelosi impeach the president, and I could go down through another dozen aspects of what the mainstream media does, because I'm a ground citizen journalist. I'm at the ground. I'm the one that has worked the 18-wheelers. I'm the one that moved the furniture. I'm the one that taught school. I'm one of the ones that was a bartender and heard a lot of stories. I was one of the ones, a safety officer for a major company here in Denver, Colorado. I also worked in Detroit. I think all of you know that. And one of the things that I discovered over my years of working at the ground level, and also as a writer and a journalist, is that there are powerful forces there in Washington and certainly New York that want to take away our country, our freedoms, our right to the Second Amendment, and even the First Amendment. And so it's really important to understand. And I think it was some German propagandist that said if you tell a lie long enough and often enough, that people start to think that's the truth. So with that in mind, I urge everyone listening to this broadcast, get out there and vote. Make sure you vote your conscience, vote for what you think is right for our country, and make sure that those liberals and this unbelievable run by Biden and Harris does not come to fruition in the White House, because we will be in for one nasty ride if those two reach the White House. So that's thank you to that caller. He really nailed it.
You know, you said something I want to elaborate on a little bit, because I had this as part of my program last week. Get out and vote. And I'm just going to say this. I am not a proponent. You will not hear me say one good thing about early voting, going to the polls early, like some states have already voted 2-3 weeks ago. I am not in favor of mail-in ballots. I believe in the old way, the old-fashioned way of where my dad and mother took off work and they made an absolute honest attempt to get to the polls, stand in line, and cast their vote. And they respected the laws and the Constitution of America. And I think we've lost that. And I'm telling people this other garbage of early voting, I don't trust it.
Well, I don't either. But one of the things we're facing, Zeb, and to every one of you listening to this extraordinary broadcast that Zeb brings each week, if these Democrats get into office, they will abolish the Electoral College.
Yes.
And, of course, if that happens, then New York and certainly California will be choosing every president from now on and disenfranchising half the rest of the country. So you have to understand that. It looks like Biden's going to do a court-packing thing like FDR tried, who was unsuccessful. But also what's going to go on is they're going to give D.C., Washington, D.C., which has like 600,000 people, statehood and the power to vote and have as much power as any other state, and Puerto Rico the same thing, and that will give unbelievable Democrat power. And then I guarantee if you haven't, go to Biden's website, his platform. I've never seen such a platform that's so anti-American, so anti-choice, of Second Amendment choice. She's coming for our guns. And I guarantee you this, there's a reason they call people with no guns subjects and Second Amendment people citizens, because we have the right and we have the power to make sure our government serves us and not us serving the government under its power. That's why the Second Amendment and the First Amendment were the First and Second Amendments put into the Constitution. We need the right to understand what we're facing. We need to be educated to what is happening. And, of course, we're not having that happen with the mainstream media. I mean, I don't trust one single one of those mainstream media people, because they shovel baloney at us just about 5 days a week and more. And so in the Second Amendment, we lose the Second Amendment, we are in deep trouble, and that's what's going to happen if that pair, Harris and Biden, get into office, and that's going to be a tragedy that can't be undone for 4 solid years.
Well,
so, yeah, get out and vote.
There's something else, too, that kind of dovetails right into the subject matter that you and I have talked about for years and years on this program. And that's a borderless America. Anything goes, anybody can go back and forth, stay here, whatever. And then also Kamala Harris with her advocacy of Medicare for all. I mean, Frosty, we're talking about a complete breakdown in our society for citizens of this country, what they've worked for, what they deserve, and this office of Biden and Harris would absolutely destroy everything that we have in this country.
You are exactly correct. I know each one of you listening today, you know that I do my research. You understand that I really give you the ground level, what's happening in the coffee houses, who's talking about what, and then what's happening up there in the corridors of power. If anybody thinks that a Nancy Pelosi is out there to serve the American people, or a Maxine Waters, or a Charles Schumer, you got another thing coming. Those are the corrupt career politicians that are grasping for power, and they're going to do, and they are doing anything and everything. Look what they've done. They've literally tortured an elected president, Donald J. Trump, for the last 4 years. They've tortured her with every kind of charge, all of them bogus, all of them found out to be completely untrue. And yet they keep at it. I mean, now that Nancy Pelosi, who's 80 years old, and I swear she's either a drunk or she has onset dementia, this lady wants to bring the 25th Amendment in just because Donald Trump was in the hospital for a couple of days and fought off this COVID. I'm sorry. She is out to lunch. And so if we allow Biden and Harris, along with a majority in the House and Senate, to become the reality for the next 4 years, this country, our way of life, our borders will be absolutely, completely demolished. And, yeah, anyone and everyone will be able to come into this country at an unbelievable amount of speed. And I want you to appreciate this. There's probably on the planet right now, there's 500 million, if not more, who would move to America in a heartbeat if they had a visa and they had a plane ticket, because that's how miserable so many other countries are. That's why the Chinese are coming in here with chain migration. That's why Indians from the subcontinent of India are flooding into America. That's why there are 15 million illegal Mexicans in our country right now. Get a hold of that number. 15 million Mexicans found it so miserable in Mexico and so poverty-stricken and so no choices and no education and the whole 9 yards. They flooded into our country. Can you imagine if another 15 or 20 million more Mexicans flood into America? I mean, we will lose our language, we will lose our culture, we will lose our way of life, because we're simply being overwhelmed and overloaded with the sheer numbers of all these international refugees. And it's bad enough right now that we're taking in 1 million legally every year, because that is causing horrific problems across this country right now. And it linguistically, culturally, sociologically. I mean, I can't repeat these facts enough, and these are the facts. We're really in deep trouble because of mass immigration. And God only knows that Biden and Harris would simply accelerate it beyond anyone's imagination at this point.
You know, Frosty, every week you, when you're at your home, in your office, are writing excellent pieces that explain exactly what's going on in this country. And a lot of people don't like it because you're telling them the truth and you're not hiding any of your language. I just wonder, why? People like you, people like me, why are we denigrated when we speak the truth? You know what's going to happen if we accept all these people in here. You know what's going to happen to our citizens that are legal citizens if we keep letting illegals come into this country with mass numbers. You know what's going to happen to our Constitution and our value system, but it just doesn't seem like people care.
Well, I can tell you this, and it's true. If you all go to newswithviews.com this morning, my latest column is the harshest realities of America's present and future. And when the founders walked out of Constitution Hall in 1789, and in fact, 2 years ago, I walked out of Constitution Hall too. I stood right where all those men and women created the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution in 1789. And when Ben Franklin walked out, the reporter said, "What kind of a government have you formed for the colonies?" And Franklin replied, "We formed a constitutional republic if you can keep it," unquote. Well, yeah, I mean, 50% of Americans don't vote in national elections, and well over 80% don't vote in just regular local elections. And so, yeah, a lot of people don't care. But I guarantee you this, having traveled through China, having traveled through India, having traveled through Bangladesh, having traveled all over Mexico, having traveled literally across 6 continents to see the other side of the story, the other side of governance, I can tell you this, we better get involved in our constitutional government, our constitutional republic, and we better be voting for the best and the brightest and the smartest to lead our country, rather than sit back and think it's all going to work on its own, because it's not going to work on its own. And I guarantee you, if we get this I've seen a lot of elections as a kid from Dwight D. Eisenhower on up, and I think maybe this is the most pivotal because a man like Biden, who is about as corrupt as any corrupt politician can be, along with this unbelievably radical anti-American Harris lady, I'm sorry, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, and it's so important that we make sure that, again, vote whom you think will serve this country and serve America and serve our interests rather than everyone else's interests around the world.
You know, Frosty, on another subject I want you to expand on a little bit. You know my absolute contempt and hatred, I'll use that word, against Black Lives Matter, this organization that is a Marxist/socialist communistic group. They are now running advertisements during the NFL games to solicit members to Black Lives Matter, and they've also filed papers to become a political action committee. I mean, people don't realize how serious this is.
They truly don't. And you know, what's really, there was an ad put out by Michelle Obama.
Yes.
Also Michael Laverne Robinson, a.k.a. a DNA male. But she was literally advocating for BLM and advocating for racial separation. I mean, she and her Barack Hussein Obama, those two are so anti-American, it's beyond understanding. But I can tell you, if this BLM and these kinds of people get into power, they are separating this country and causing racial separation greater than anything I've seen in the last 50 years. And I've seen a lot. I've seen the riots in Detroit because I was there. I've seen the college campus riots because I was in college back then. I've seen a lot of history go, and I've been in it. I marched against the Vietnam War. I also served in the United States Army. But my gosh, what's going on with BLM? It has nothing to do with America. It has nothing to do with George Floyd, again, who was a drug addict, who was a fentanyl higher than a kite the day he died, and that's how he did die. It wasn't from the neck. It wasn't from the knee on his neck. He was a carjacker. He was a woman beater. He was a porno star. He was a welfare fraud. He was a counterfeiter. He was also illiterate, and he was a career criminal. The guy never even got to, I think, about the 10th grade. And yet everybody is looking to make him the answer, and then they're making him the focal point for their BLM rage. I'm sorry. That BLM and this Antifa could be very, very destructive for America, and we need to literally throw them all in jail.
Can you imagine, though, Frosty, in a insane world like we live in, that they would name a square, a center of Minneapolis after George Floyd, but these same people that have the combined IQ of a toothpick are rioting, burning, and tipping over and destroying statues of Abraham Lincoln and Roosevelt? Where is the sanity in this country?
Well, you know, again, this summer, you all know that I traveled through 28 states. I went all the way from the west here all the way to the east. I stood on the battlefield, and Sandy and I stood where Abraham Lincoln gave his Gettysburg Address, the most famous presidential address of all time, repeated more than any other address, period, the Gettysburg Address, 2 minutes long. We stood where he stood. And we also went to Asheville, North Carolina. We saw the big Black Lives mural and all of this destruction and all of the closed-up front door fronts. These people don't do anything constructive. All they are is Marxist anarchists, and they want to, and they are being very, really effective at tearing down our country, because the estimates now are they have destroyed in excess of $1 billion in properties and businesses across this country where they have been rioting. They have no solution, and I can say this with absolute fact. The Constitution of the United States of America is the fairest, most progressive, most equitable governance in the world. It's the most copied Constitution in the world for other successful countries. And for BLM and Antifa to be able to do their rampaging, and Black Lives Matter, BLM, That's burning, looting, and mayhem. That has nothing to do with civil society. That has nothing to do with everybody's free speech and free right to choose. They are against everything America. And we have got to bring the hammer down on those people, and I mean get them arrested and prosecuted and jailed before they even make more consequences and more mayhem in our streets and across our country.
You know, I said this quite a few times on my program, and I've been criticized for it, but I maintain that it has to happen. We need to have law enforcement of our laws be very tough, and there may have to be many bloody noses to restore the respect and sanity in our law system in America. Would you agree or disagree?
Totally agree. I can tell you this. I traveled to Chicago this summer. I traveled through North Carolina. I traveled to South Carolina. I traveled through Virginia. I went through Georgia. I got to see the mess that's going on out there. And the fact is, we simply have to bring the hammer down and the rule of law to maintain our civil society. And so I stand with you on that. And I know every person listening to this broadcast, none of us want BLM or Antifa. They're not doing anything to further race relations. They're not doing anything to further freedom. They're not doing anything to make America a positive civil society. They are Marxists, they are anarchists, and they need to be shut down as fast as we can possibly shut them down, and we should be able to do that. Because I can tell you this, I also went through Baltimore. Baltimore looks like a third world country. I mean, there are blocks and blocks and blocks of poverty and misery and houses and businesses shut down, for sale, for lease. The same thing in Los Angeles. There's 60,000 people that are homeless. That's run by Democrats. Baltimore's run by Democrats. Democrats run Chicago. Democrats run Minneapolis. Democrats run Seattle. You get a theme here that these people that are called Democrats, a.k.a. Harris and Biden, are not doing the job that they're supposed to do as elected officials and carry on a civil society with people who are safe in their homes, safe in their cars, safe in the streets where they live. Instead, they are promoting BLM and Antifa and that kind of rampaging and that kind of anarchy. And that's why people are fleeing Chicago, fleeing Baltimore.
Yes.
You're going to have another Detroit in every one of those cities,
yep,
because that's what happened to Detroit. And as you all know, I worked in Detroit for 20 years. I got to see exactly what happened to Detroit. Well, it's also happening to Los Angeles. It's happening to San Francisco. It's happening to Baltimore. It's even happening right there, of course, in Chicago and Minneapolis. I mean, the list just goes on. We need to change course, folks. And that means we need law and order, respect for our police, respect for our National Guard, and respect for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And our country.
Absolutely.
I am amazed that these kids are coming up hating their own country when they are the most fortunate children in the world to be United States citizens and born in this country. And that means all colors, black, white, brown, red, yellow, Hispanic, African American. I don't care who you are. You better get down on your knees and thank God that you got to be born in or live in America, because truly you have the most opportunities of any human being on this planet to live in this country.
Absolutely. I've got a caller, and caller, I'm going to set some rules. You got 30 seconds, and that's it, and I'm going to cut you off because I'm out of time. Quickly.
This needs to be said. The greed for taxes through legalization of marijuana in these major cities is not helping at all either.
I'll have Frosty respond. Real quick, Frosty. I've only got 20 seconds left. Real fast.
Since I live in Denver, Golden, Colorado, we have stoned kids driving in cars. We just had an accident a mile away from my house on I-70 just last week. I bicycled up on it. A bunch of stoned motorcyclists. In fact, there were 5 of them, and one of them clipped a car, ran off the exit, and was killed.
Oh, my.
And his 4 other buddies left him, and he died. Stoned and drunk and all that goes with it. Yeah, I'm sorry, but we should not allow such a legalization of all of these stoned kids out there on the highways. It's a mess.
I got to go.
That's all I can say about
I've got to run. I'm way out of time, but I always look forward to my dear friend from Golden, Colorado, Frosty Woolridge. Take care, my dear friend. Talk to you next Monday. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Zeb, and Godspeed to all of us.
All right, sir. Right now, I got to go to the weather before I run out of time. The weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. They are the professionals when it comes to accounting services to the Mini-Cash area and beyond for well over 50 years. They are the professionals with tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, financial statement preparation, retirement planning, all of this and more. The professionals. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Definitely feels like fall is in the air. Here's a look at the weather forecast for this Columbus Day. It's going to be sunny skies. We are expecting a high of 63. Definitely breezy winds out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. And winds could gust as high as 34 miles an hour tonight. Pretty much the same with a low of 38 tomorrow. Mostly sunny skies, high of 71. Still going to be a little bit breezy by Wednesday. Mostly sunny, only looking at a high of 58. Then for Thursday, sunny skies and 56. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. Brought to everybody by the professionals. I'm so glad that Deanne and I are working with these great folks. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. When it comes to accounting services for you, your family, and your business, they are the best, with offices at 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley, 625th Street in Rupert. The professionals, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Real quick, also, I want to remind you about some other folks that are just really at the top of their field. Let me tell you, Patterson's Electronics at 421 East Main in Burley. Curtis and Lorena, they know everything about electronics. I don't care if it's the power cords or the cables or if it's the home theater systems, video surveillance cameras, all the complete sound systems, car stereos and speakers, all the list goes on and on and on. And televisions, why, they've got the best of Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs. All of this at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 678-6997. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, Patterson's Electronics. Woo! We made it. And right now, we're going to send this back over to our main studios, and we'll be back after the news. Zeb at the Ranch, don't you go away. Oh, so much to do and so little time. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the very best in tires. And don't forget, too, our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at 7K Metals. Hello. Man, I tell you what, I'm so glad and fortunate they introduced us to silver purchases, and you can help yourself build your own financial security and future by silver purchases sent right to your home. That's right. It's a great saving opportunity for you and a valued treasure for your loved ones. Find out more about investing in financial security with silver, and that's, of course, with Lon Hardy at 312-8699. That number again, 312-8699, or Sharon at 430-3259. You give them a call. Tell them I told you to call, and they'll help you with more information about silver purchases with 7K Metals. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I cannot wait to discuss this, what's going on in California that could envelop the rest of the United States. With us, with the Pacific Legal Foundation, is a person that's been on our program before, Wen Fa, attorney with PLF. Good morning, Wen. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Zeb.
You know, when I read this about the Orange County Register saying in a story that in California on Election Day, Californians are going to be voting on Proposition 16. And when I read this horrendous proposition, I thought, wow, I got to get this on my program. But rather than me mess it up, I'd like you to tell my listeners exactly how heinous this Proposition 16 is.
Yeah, certainly. So in 1996, California passed a constitutional amendment that amended the Constitution to eliminate racial discrimination in the field of public education, public contracting, and public employment. Now, what California is trying to do right now with this Proposition 16 is to repeal that previous constitutional amendment. So if Prop 16 passes, that would mean that California, the governments across the state of California, would be able to discriminate on the basis of race in public employment, public education, and public contracting. This is something that we're already seeing in a lot of other places across the country. It's morally wrong. It's unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment, and that's why I think Californians would be wise to maintain its current course of prohibiting racial discrimination in the public sphere in its Constitution.
Let me ask you, and I'm going to probably ask some naive questions, and Sean, over at our studio, just a little feedback here, if you would cut that back, I'd appreciate it. The way I interpreted this, Wen, is that, let's just say that I'm an adult male, I'm white, I'm Caucasian, and I'm the most qualified for this particular job. But because these bureaucrats want to give preferences and so-called equality, they're going to bypass me, and they're going to make somebody else possibly in that position for a job because they like them better. Is that right?
That's certainly, I mean, we don't know for sure because this only allows governments to discriminate on the basis of race. We don't know what precisely the governments will do, but certainly the sort of racial preferences you mentioned have been really at the forefront in other states in education admission systems in University of Michigan, University of Carolina over the past decade or so. And then we also see them at private universities, too, like Harvard University. And those are systems in which you can have an applicant take a test, get a lower score, and still be able to get into the university over someone who had a higher score on the standardized test. And I think that's wrong, not just for the person who didn't get in, but also for the person who did get in. Because, when we think of tests, we think of tests that actually measure something. If the test doesn't measure anything, then I think you just, switch it to a test that does measure something. But we think of those standardized tests as measuring something. So I think what studies have found is that when you have people with lower scores get into schools and competing with other people with higher scores, they don't usually do as well. And I think that's just one other instance of these programs not really actually even helping the people they were intended to benefit. And then even worse than that, they're discriminating on the basis of race. That's just something we don't want to see in California.
But wait a minute, Wen, help me out on this. Didn't we see just recently, within the last couple of months, a couple of court cases where very well-to-do parents, and they happen to be actors and actresses, tried to buy their kids' way into college, and that was deemed illegal, and they're paying the consequences. So what's the difference with this Proposition 16, where they can pick and choose who they want, and the others, to heck with them?
Well, I think the big picture is that you want people to be able to get into positions that they want and to get into positions that they are qualified.
Right.
So you want people, look, if you see a problem, I mean, there is a problem with, different sorts of areas in the United States. They don't have, I don't think everybody has the educational opportunities that they need to be successful. But the problem with that isn't just to wait until college and then to, give racial preferences that don't really do anything at the college admissions level. The remedy to that is to increase competition at the K through 12 level, utilize programs such as school choice, allow schools to innovate. I mean, I think some of it goes back to the bigger problem with the lack of innovation with the public school monopoly. And there's a solution to that, and the solution isn't racial preferences.
Yeah, but when you use the term on your promo sheet that I have in front of me, this is an attempt at racial balancing. That is wrong. I'll stand up and I'll say this 1,000 times over. The NFL is wrong for the Rooney Rule, demanding that people have to interview so-and-so people of color, etc., for a job. And then they're going to say, well, you have to have a percentage of this color or that color. You know, I'm sick of this. The best person for the job is the one that should be hired.
Racial balancing is absolutely wrong. When you think about a free society, and that's what we're after at Pacific Legal Foundation, we are invested in the notions, principles of individual liberty and a free society. That's our vision. And when you think of a free society, different people are going to make different choices in life, and those choices will affect where they end up. So if you have, different people, one group of people, they want to enter into one profession, another group of people that want to enter into another profession, you might not get a racial balance. You might not get a racial balance that reflects the general population as a whole. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it would be wrong to mandate a racial balance, because that would say to individuals who are qualified for a job, who want a job, to say that you cannot get this job because of your skin color. And that is inconsistent with equality before the law. That is morally wrong, and it's unconstitutional under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
Why can't we go back to the old system of, if you've got the qualities and capabilities, you're the best person for the job, let it be at that. I'm not worried about ethnicity. I'm not worried about race or color of skin. This is destroying America.
I think a merit-based system, in fact, if anything, would work even better now than it did in the past. Now you have more and more opportunities for people through better technologies to communicate with each other about an individual's performance. You have more and more opportunities for applicants to showcase their skills. You have more of an opportunity right now in the year 2020 than you've ever had before to obtain an opportunity based on your individual wishes and based on your individual merit. And I think that's what it should be about. Equality before the law means that no individual, no matter what that person's race, is denied an opportunity for which she is qualified on the basis of race, an opportunity for which she is qualified because of her race. And that's why we are fighting for equality before the law, using an individual liberty, using the principles of individual liberty that have served us in our other areas as well.
How far advanced, I should say, is this sick idea of Proposition 16 going into other states and consuming all of America? I mean, what's the status on this thought?
Well, we don't know for sure, because the voters have yet to vote or have yet to finish completing voting on Proposition 16. I'm optimistic. The last few reports I've heard is that a lot of California is a blue state, as you know, but a lot of the independents and even people in all of the political parties, regardless of political affiliation, have stood up and said this is wrong. Prop 16 is just inconsistent with our understanding of equality before the law. In other states, I don't know what the current political landscape is necessarily in other states, but what I can tell you is that we have seen racial discrimination in other states. You have racial balancing efforts in Connecticut, for example, at the magnet schools in Connecticut, that because they mandated the number of black and Hispanic students, they capped the number of black and Hispanic students that can attend Hartford magnet schools out of the purpose of achieving diversity. But what they ended up doing was, because the schools cannot get enough white and Asian students to attend those schools, they had empty seats. They had over 1,000 empty seats.
Oh my.
And thousands of black and Hispanic students on the wait list trying to get into those magnet schools, trying to better their educational opportunities. And I think, everybody, no matter what your political affiliation, no matter what your political leanings, you realize that's something that like that is wrong, and it discriminates on the basis of race.
How did you and how did the Pacific Legal Foundation get involved in this Proposition 16? I mean, give us the parameters as to how you got involved and what you're trying to do.
We're not involved in Proposition 16. There are proponents and opponents of Proposition 16. We are not involved. We don't take a position on Proposition 16, but we do take a position on racial discrimination. And our position is that we believe in the notion of equality before the law. We take that as an individual right, as an individual guarantee that no individual should be discriminated on the basis of race because of her skin color. No one should be denied an opportunity because of her skin color. And that's where we come in. We don't take a position on any ballot initiative, but we do take a position that discrimination on the basis of race is wrong, and it's unconstitutional.
Let me ask you this question, though. Have we gone so far in the left direction of this racial balancing that we can't turn the bus around and try to make this fair and equitable for everyone in America?
Well, I think that, I think that when you tell people what equality before the law is really about, you come at it with an individual guarantee perspective. You see it as a right granted to the individual, not to the collective. I think that's something that resonates with a lot of people, regardless of political leaning. I think you are right in the sense that there has been a lot of movement in the last year or so to prop up this collectivist notion of equality before the law. But I'm confident that through messaging, focus on the individual, through the stories like what we've seen from people in Connecticut and all across the country, I think that, people are really in tune with this sort of individualist perspective of equality before the law. And I think that is the perspective that will prevail, because that is the only moral perspective and the only constitutional perspective of equality before the law.
So basically, justice, to be equal and fair, should put a blindfold on and just listen to the attributes of a certain person and judge on fairness that way. Because if we're starting to go on the basis of race, sex, or ethnicity, our society's never going to get it right.
Right, and I don't think those two are incompatible. I think, we don't want racial preferences. But in a just society where people are judged based on their individual merits, abilities, and interests, then you wouldn't have discrimination on the basis of race. Discrimination on the basis of race means that someone who is, who has the individual capabilities and the interest to perform a certain function cannot do so because of her race. So I think a society in which all are equal before the law is a society where you prioritize the individual over the collective.
Absolutely. Tell me, along with this case and all the others that Pacific Legal Foundation is a part of or a spokesman for, how do people follow you on the web? Give us all that information, please.
People can read about our cases at our website at pacificlegal.org. They can follow us on Twitter. I believe our Twitter handle is at Pacific Legal. And we also have a Facebook page, so they can follow us at all of those sites. And we look forward certainly to hearing from our supporters and their ideas, and look forward to them following us.
One final thought, Wynn, and you've always been a straight shooter on my program. I don't know how many years you've been with Pacific Legal Foundation or how many years you've been an attorney, but when you look at the overall status of America today and the way we're moving away from the Constitution and its values, how afraid are you as to where we're headed?
I am very optimistic. I think there has been, I can see why you say that, because there has been a lot in the news that I would completely understand if it made someone feel pessimistic about our future, but I'm very optimistic. This is a 2020, even with all that has gone on, it's still a better time to live than any other time in world history. The United States of America is a better place to live than any other place in the world. I think I'm very optimistic that the advances in technology, the advances in communication capabilities and the advances in across all areas, from medicine to science to all those areas. I think that'll just make the world a better place. Maybe 2020 hasn't been as good for most people as 2019, but it certainly has been better for people than 1920. And along the same lines, I think 2025 and 2030 are going to be even better. So I think we have our best years ahead of us.
You know, I appreciate your optimism. Thank you very much, Wen Fa with the Pacific Legal Foundation. Please come back soon. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting. And can you imagine, though, that Californians are going to vote on that proposition on November 3rd, and it would amend the state constitution to allow state bureaucrats to give preferences in public employment, contracting, education, etc., on the basis of race, sex, or ethnicity? Yeah. Again, my grandmother comes into play, and she would have said, ay, 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 and she would have been right. I want to remind you about what's going on. We got time for some phone calls. Give me a jingle at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More are having a harvest sale. Woo! Let me tell you, all furniture, mattresses, dining room sets, and bedroom groups, etc., 40% off. What? Yeah, 40% off. And listen to this. Simmons Beauty Rest mattresses, 50% off. Oh, my. You better load up the car, get the kids, everybody slow down, and drive right over to 459 Overland in Burley. Yep, it's the great big harvest sale. Jeff and the crew, they've got everything for the beautification and the comfortization of your home. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Caller, good morning. Thank you for your call. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. A couple of years ago, I had an idea about seeing if we can organize groups like motorcycle clubs and stuff politically. The answer I got is we can't get involved in stuff like that. Okay, so I come up with another idea. I don't know how this is going to work. Trying to organize veterans to be a political organization to stand up for American freedoms. Mm-hmm. But I'll bet you, if we tried that, getting the veterans, any benefits that they have would be in jeopardy. But these guys, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, could go along the streets and destroy everything and everybody in a way. Nothing would be done.
I couldn't agree more. I'm seeing, and I believe what I'm seeing, that the left in their evil, the left in their burning and looting, the left in their threats, they always seem to be prevalent to where nobody comes up and slaps them on the hand and says, go sit down in a chair and behave yourself. And yet somebody else will step up and they'll try to be a part of American society, and they get absolutely dumped on. I couldn't agree with you more. And this had better change in the next 22 days after the election. I certainly hope that Trump wins in a landfall. I hope that he wins so decisively that he says the very next day, we're going to clean up Portland. We're going to stop all this nonsense. It's not going to be the America that I'm going to be president over, no matter what the left and the Democrats say. Your thoughts, Tony. Go ahead.
If Biden ever gets in, I see a revolution happening in this street, and things are going to get cleaned up, but it's going to get bloody. That's what I'm looking at.
Well, I certainly hope that we won't have to resort to a society of revolution, a society like Venezuela or others. But then on the other hand, we're not going to be pushed around either. We're not going to be forced to accept the absolute terrorist activities of Black Lives Matter or Antifa. And I think it's about time the American public, the first three words of the Constitution, we the people, started fighting back and winning.
Well, people's tempers are up. They're bursting inside, and they're going to explode. There's something drastic going to happen to bring people back to the reality that this is the United States of America, and we don't have to put up with the scrap that's being engineered by foreign countries.
No, I agree. Tony, absolutely. There's no question that what you said has been very well thought out, and I agree with it. I said earlier with Frosty on the air that the United States is going to have to get tough. We're going to have to restore some values in this country, and bloody noses might have to occur, but we've got to restore law and order in a semblance of sanity that this country was founded on and stood for.
Well, that's how we got our freedom from many years ago. It's the old blood and guts.
Absolutely. Tony, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, sir. I agree with him. And it's about time that we restored some of that sanity. And you're not going to get that sanity with the Democratic Party. Absolutely not. Want to remind you to go vote. Absolutely. Go vote. We, the people, have the civic obligation to choose our leadership. Be sure and vote for the candidate of your choice on November 3rd. This message paid by the Re-elect District 27 Representative Fred Wood Committee, Steve Westfall, Treasurer. Coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to have Dog Days with Deb Hines with Minidoka Animal Control and the Wagon Tails Rescue. And you don't want to miss that. She's got some dogs that absolutely are going to look for some homes, and you might be the new owner, so stay tuned. Right now, we're going to send it back over to Sean. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Oh, thank you. 57 degrees outside. 57? Things have cooled off a little bit, haven't they? Well, right now, one of my favorite segments, because every time I have this lady on the phone with me and we talk about dogs and we talk about trying to find new owners, it kind of gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling because she really, really cares for all these dogs and puppies and is trying to find homes for them. And I'm talking about Deb Hines with Minidoka Animal Control and their friends Wagon Tails Rescue. Good morning, Deb. How are you?
I'm good, Zeb. How are you?
Well, hanging in there, hanging on, and you do so much for the canine industry with all these dogs and these puppies and everything. Tell us a little bit about our success. Are we getting through to the audience? What's been the success ratio?
Well, I've noticed that requests for our spay and neuters is up, which is awesome. And I've got people coming in to look at our dogs, which is another awesome thing because, if I don't want them in there, and I've said that many, many times, it's not a good place for good dogs. But we're doing better, and I greatly, greatly appreciate the community and all that they've done for us.
Absolutely.
And you, thank goodness for you. I think that's helped a bunch, too.
Well, I absolutely want to see these dogs go to great homes. And, I hate to sound kind of old-fashioned, but there's nothing better to have a rubber ball out in the yard and playing catch with the dog and letting him chase it and go fetch and everything. I just want to see these dogs, especially going into the fall and winter. I want to see them have good homes, caring homes, lots of food, water, and shelter. I mean, that means a lot to me, too.
Yep, it's very important, especially now because welcome to winter.
Yeah.
We had our 2 days of summer, so now we're going into it. And it's getting really cold at night. So, we set up dog kennels and blankets and things at the shelter in the drop boxes for those dogs that have to stay overnight. But it's getting cold.
Absolutely.
I don't really like them overnight if we don't have to.
Absolutely.
I'd rather just get them into the building.
These dogs, you had a story. Caller, don't go away. I just want Deb to comment on this. You had a story about a dog a week ago, and honestly, Deb, I'm trying to be an old tough cowboy on this program, but you brought me to tears when you were telling about a dog that had been taken to the shelter. The owner didn't want the dog anymore, and the dog laid there and cried and cried and cried for that owner and for his home. Woo! You got to me on that one.
Yeah, and I am very happy to say that one of your listeners came in, and that little guy went up to them, and they both fell in love with each other, and he went home that same day.
Oh, now you made my day. Now you made my day. We've got a caller with a question for you, Deb, so stand by. Caller, go ahead, please.
I wonder if she'd comment on an article that I saw in the paper this past week about a shortage of funding, and they may have to go back to a kill situation instead of a no-kill. Would you comment on that, please? Thank you.
Deb, I don't know how much you want to comment on that, but go ahead and answer the caller if you would, please.
Well, it's like anybody that asks me personally, as long as I can keep getting donations and stuff to help me with this, I think we're going to be okay. But I've spent my past years, and I've been doing this for over 8 years, making sure that we do not have to euthanize unless it's a question of the dog's health. And if they haven't got any quality of life, I don't need to keep them alive. I mean, I'm not being fair to the dog. So I will keep fighting the euthanization. People keep coming and adopting and, helping us out with donations. We're going to come out of this. And, it's like I said before, it's my fault. I saved all those babies, but I've never had 30 pups in all the years I've worked there till last year. So I'm hoping that our spay and neuter program is going to pick up and I won't have that problem again.
Deb, let me ask you this. Well, it's not really asking you anything. I'm going to make a statement. You can agree with me or disagree. But people are so easy to be approached by organizations like Black Lives Matter, which is a Marxist, socialist, communist group, and they'll contribute. People will contribute to ways and means that are derogatory to our United States and our American lifestyle. Why won't people take the same amount of time to look at these dogs, look at these puppies, and feel a compassion to reach down and write out a check to help support these animal shelters? You need help, and it's finances that would really help these dogs.
Yeah, and no, I have a tendency to agree. And don't get me wrong, I think everything out there that people are asking, there's a lot of great organizations out there that need help. And unfortunately, this COVID thing has clobbered all of us exceedingly hard because, like our transports are down, adoptions have been down because people are afraid.
Yeah.
And I get it.
Yeah.
Totally get it. But on the flip side of the coin, we're punishing things that don't need to be punished. These, my little guys, my four-legged beasties, they can't talk for themselves. We got to do the best we can to take care of them. And when I get something in there like the couple that I wanted to talk to you about today, it just absolutely kills me that the owner won't come get this dog. I mean these dogs, it's ridiculous. They're very well trained. And I have to tell you, I'm talking about Macho and Nacho. They are pit crosses. They're both brindle. They're about 3 years old. And they love everybody. And I'm not kidding. We have them running with puppies out in the yard. The thing with them is, if they can tell there's something wrong and that you're threatened, they will protect you.
Absolutely.
However, if they don't think you're being threatened, they may help the people find the best stuff in your house and pack it out. I don't know.
Let me ask you this. I don't know if... let me ask you this, Deb, and I don't know if you want to elaborate on this or not, but you said the owners won't come and get them. Why?
I don't know. I picked them up. They were running in Rupert. I picked them up. They got right in the truck. We have not had one iota of problems with these dogs. We posted them immediately, said where we got them, and I still don't have owners. I don't want them in there because they're so nice. And I'm not kidding, Zeb. Those are the nicest. We call them the gentle giants. Even if they jump on you, you'd think it was a pup.
Well,
they are so loving and gentle.
I'm assuming that those are two of the dogs that you wanted to feature this morning. Is that correct?
Yes, they are. Those are my two boys that I want to feature this morning because I really, really would like to get them into a home.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit more about them, the size, their age, and that type of thing.
Okay, they're on the big side. They're 3 years old. One's a black brindle, and the other one is a brown brindle, Macho and Nacho. And unfortunately, these two are exceedingly bonded, so I'm afraid they're going to have to go together. However, because of that, we've made some concessions on the adoptions.
I see.
And I've got some sponsors that are going to pay for their neuters.
Okay.
So this will just be a straight-out adoption thing. I know it sounds ridiculous to have to take two dogs, but we do get cases like this where there's absolutely no way to separate them because I'll lose them.
Mm-hmm. So that's Macho and Nacho, and they are, again, tell us the breed and also the size and the age, if you would.
Well, they're pit crosses. They're not purebred pits.
I see.
They weigh maybe 120 pounds.
Uh-huh.
3 years old, and you couldn't ask for nicer dogs.
Absolutely.
You could not ask for nicer dogs.
Absolutely.
They'll protect you when they need to and love you to death when they need to.
All right. Now, besides those, what are the other feature dogs you wanted to touch on this morning?
Well, I got in this morning, another owner surrender, a 3-month-old ride cross, female.
Uh-huh.
She's in the office, running around, laying down. I'm not real sure. This dog is house trained, and she's crate trained. No, I do not know why they got rid of her. She was in the drop box, and told them to don't get out. So
oh, my.
that's why we got her in the office to warm her up. But she's a sweetie, too.
Now, she's only 3 months old, and they can call and try to get over and take a look at these dogs. Let me ask you this, though. There's probably people out there that are saying, you know what, I can buy X amount of bags of dog food, or I could do something to help the shelter. What would you tell those people? Who do they need to talk to? Where do they need to send the money? What's the procedure there, Deb?
Well, all monetary can go to, if they want to mail it in, can go to P.O. Box 426 in Rupert, or they can call City Hall, which is not open today, but they can call City Hall and do a credit card. They can bring dog food to us. They can order it from off the internet, and they'll send it to us, whatever they think they can do. And if they would like to come and look at these guys and see if maybe they can find something that'll fit in their lives and just be an extra little pug money, please come see us.
Absolutely. Now, again, I want you to tie in another major group that is a partner with Minidoka Animal Control, and that's Wagon Tails Rescue. Tell us real quick about them, again, if you would, please.
Okay, we've been associated with them. Well, I personally have been associated with them quite a while, and they have been there to help us with our spay-neuter program. Not only dogs at the shelter, but also dogs that people already own. If they come out, fill out a piece of paper, through donations and grants, we are able to get enough money to help assist them, and a spay and neuter for a cat or a dog is only $25 to the owner.
Okay. You know, Deb, every time I have you on the air, it leaves me with a feeling of we did something good for not only the dogs, but also for people. Give us the hours and the telephone number where people can call and check on Nacho and Macho and that little 3-month-old also.
Okay, I will do. It is 208
Yes.
438-2200. And our hours are, I'm usually there by 8 o'clock in the morning, so if they want to call, they can call at 8. We open the doors at 9 and close at 1, Monday through Friday. And we're open on Saturdays from 9 to noon.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate Deb Hines helping us every week on Dog Days. And I urge the audience, please, if you have any need for a dog, they've got a dog just for you to create a good home and a good environment. Deb Hines, Minidoka Animal Control, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Zeb, and have a good week.
Oh, God bless. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Absolutely. Boy, when she said that story a week ago about that dog that was brought to the shelter and the owner didn't want the dog anymore, and the dog loved the owner and whimpered and cried when the owner left and just whimpered and cried all night. Oh, boy, that got to me. I'll tell you that. I am a dog lover, I'll guarantee you. I got to do the weather. And you know what? This is something, Sean, if you got a jackknife over there, take it out and make a little notch on the console board. I'm on time for the weather for the first time in, 3-4 years. Anyway, the weather brought to you by Scarro's Meats. 331 North Road, Jerome. Don Scarrow and the crew. Oh, my goodness. You can check out all the delicious meats at scarrowsmeats.com. Absolutely. Or give them a call. 324-7657. I mean, we're getting closer to the holidays, the ham and turkey atmosphere and everything. They've got it all, along with all the marinated pork ribs and all the tri-tips and all the different flavors of bacon and sausage and bratwurst. Oh, it's delicious. You're going to love it. Please remember Scarro's Meats in Jerome, 324-7657. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Definitely feels like fall is in the air. Here's a look at the weather forecast for this Columbus Day. It's going to be sunny skies. We are expecting a high of 63. Definitely breezy winds out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. And winds could gust as high as 34 miles an hour tonight. Pretty much the same with a low of 38 tomorrow. Mostly sunny skies, high of 71. Still going to be a little bit breezy by Wednesday. Mostly sunny, only looking at a high of 58. Then for Thursday, sunny skies and 56. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina, thank you very much. And the weather brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Again, that telephone number, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. I got to tell you that when I saw this story in our wonderful, illustrious Times News newspaper the other day, I couldn't believe this. PETA, People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, they have gone off the deep end many, many times, and now they are going after the sheep ranchers. You want to know why? The People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, they want to stop sheep shearing. They don't want you to shear those sheep. They don't want you to sell that wool. They don't want you to make those sheep more comfortable in our hot, hot summers here in Idaho. They don't want you to take care of your animals with animal husbandry that you, as sheep ranchers and farmers, know much more than PETA. And they are saying this. Here was a quote in the paper that this woman that's the vice president of the PETA organization said, "Oh, the millions of gentle, intelligent sheep who are beaten, stomped on, kicked, cut, and mutilated in the wool industry each year. Why, we've got to stop that." And I'm so glad that John Peavy and others in the sheep business have spoken out and said that shearing sheep is actually a benevolent act for sheep because it helps them stay cooler in the summer and keeps them from getting weighed down when rain saturates the wool. People that know, people that are in the livestock business, I don't care if it's the sheep business, cattle business, dairy business, horse business, whatever, they know far, far more about the better keepment of animal and treatment of animals than PETA would. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. PETA's after and trying to stop sheep shearing. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. On this Columbus Day 2020, and we are not going to call it Indigenous Peoples Day. We are not going to bend to what the left and all the politically correct people say we should call it. There was a story that was put out here a couple of days ago. I've got a copy of it, where they were talking about Christopher Columbus and all the bad that he had done. You know, when you look back in history, and it's true also for our United States of America, with the slave trade, at certain points of history, it was an accepted practice. I'm not saying it's right, not at all. It's horrendous, but it was an accepted mode of practice for countries all around the world back in the 14, 15, 1600s. And they said, well, he engaged in slave trading, so that we have to take down Columbus Day. We shouldn't have anything to do with it. Well, you know, he might have had a cloud of controversy over his name, Christopher Columbus. But then, on the other hand, let's look at the accomplishments. Let's look at the achievements. You don't have to agree 400 or 500 years ago with what was done, but you have to admit that the explorers, the sailors, and the people that put forth their life on the line to find out more about really what was going on in the world or what was in the world, this man was one of them, Christopher Columbus. It took a lot of courage. It took a lot of tenacity to do what he and the other members of his crew did, to go and search and find and relate. And I'm not going to change the name. I'm going to leave it right here at Columbus Day. And it is something that the historians and all the politically correct people want to try to change and call it Indigenous Peoples Day, etc. No. It's going to stay Columbus Day on my program. And I do salute the courage and the tenacity that I said just a minute ago of any and all explorers from hundreds of years ago and what they achieved with very little equipment to protect them and their crews. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436. We can talk about sheep shearing. We can talk about Columbus. We'll talk about anything you want to. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, I also want to remind you about your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Do you know that now, right now, this time of the year, as we look at the middle of October, you can peek around that corner. Go ahead and peek around that corner. See, I told you, there it is. Winter driving is not too far away, and you better make sure that you've got the best of tires on your vehicle, whether it's your car, your pickup, your SUV, whatever the case might be. And be ready for the wintertime driving, the snow, the ice, the sludge, and everything else, because now is tire changing time. And also, you better check your batteries. Like I keep telling you, you do not want to wait till it's about maybe 20 degrees or lower. You go out, turn the key on, and your battery says, I give up, I quit. Well, you better make sure you've got a good battery, and they've got all the batteries, all the tires for all vehicles at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see those folks today. Holy cow, as we get closer and closer to Election Day. And tomorrow on the program, we're going to have Dan Kish, and Dan, of course, with the American Energy Alliance. And we're going to kind of break down a little bit exactly what the Biden and Kamala Harris team would try to implement about green energy. We're going to talk about that. And Dr. History is going to be here tomorrow, too. So, and then some other guests are scheduled. But I wanted to remind you that on Thursday at 10:30, we are going to have Governor Brad Little. I called Governor Little's office last week, made a reestablishment of another time to have him on the air. So that's going to be coming up Thursday at 10:30. Wow, what else have I got here? I'm kind of going through my notes. I think that's about it. I got everything covered here this morning, and wanted to just take a moment and let you know about our lunch bunches. We will know in the next 3 days, like I said, we'll know Thursday, if we can go ahead and have the lunch bunches again. I'm waiting to get an okay from Deanne's doctors and everything to make sure that we can do this. And as soon as I hear, you will on the program. So bear with me a couple of days, and then I'll have that information out there. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. One quick thing before you shut down for the day. My wife and I watched that movie, No Safe Spaces.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I have not.
I highly recommend that to all conservatives and all liberals.
I think what you could do, if you can do it real short and real brief, give us a quick synopsis of what people can expect to see and or watch.
Well, what I seen in it was there's a lot of liberals in there that stood up for free speech, and they turned against them. Like that professor out there in Washington, they had him on at that college out there where there was supposed to be no white people at the school that day.
Right.
And it's very eye-opening. And it makes you think, if they'll turn against their own because they're not holding to course, what are they going to do when they do get power?
You got it. Okay, now how did you obtain it, and how did you view it?
We viewed it on a DVD. My wife ordered it online.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, it is well put together. There is Prager, and then that one comedian out of California who's an atheist.
You know, you said if you wouldn't have asked me, I could have said his name freely, but then all of a sudden it went right over the top of my resistol.
Me too.
Yeah.
Right out one ear, my right ear, I think. But anyway, and he's on there, and he was a liberal. He was a Democrat.
Right.
And the two of them have gone around to colleges, and it talks about the colleges shutting down free speech.
His first name is Adam. I can't think of his last name.
Yeah, he had the Man Show.
You're right. Right.
Yeah, he's got a big podcast following.
Adam Carolla.
Thank you. Somebody in the audience, pass that man a free popcorn. Adam Carolla. I couldn't think of the last name. I got to run, Doug. I'm way over, but God bless you for that thought. We'll talk more about it tomorrow.
I highly recommend it to everybody.
All right. I appreciate that. Sean chimed in with Corolla. I came up with the Adam. We're 100%. There you go. Right now, we're going to wrap it up and say the way things were, the way things ought to be. And the 4 words that mean the most to me every day when we close this program, in God we trust. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch, you have a good one.